Okay. Okay, so you've pretty much stated much of the financing options available. But something that I wanted to emphasize, in financing options, there are core things that we look at. There is money that comes and dilutes your ownership of the business, okay? Whenever you start a business, if it is an individual, you own it 100%. So you may go for a financial option that dilutes your ownership. In other words, it reduces your ownership. You may initially be at 100, but you reduce your ownership to 80. And that means it has diluted your ownership. That is dilutive capital. There is some change in ownership. I think Mr. Aine was mentioning a partnership where we give out shares. So giving those shares means you have diluted your ownership. You've shared a piece of the cake of the business with somebody else. Non-dilutive means you do not change ownership, okay? And I think somebody mentioned, like, for example, if I get from a friend or from a bank and I don't give them any part of the business, it's almost non-dilutive. Or if I get as a loan or debt, that does not change ownership. Okay, so one of the key things that I want us to know is there is dilution on one side and there is no dilution on another side in terms of ownership. Okay, now these have their positives and negatives. Okay, but as you can see here, I'm going to strengthen this further. One, part of dilutive capital, okay, part of non-dilutive capital would include your own profit. If you are already doing business and it is generating a lot of profit, okay, that means you are using the profit to continue building the business, okay? That is non-dilutive, meaning you continue owning the whole chunk of the business. It's non-dilutive, okay? You may get grants. Some of us write proposals and we get grants. Those become non-dilutive because they have simply contributed or donated, okay? And you do not pay back, okay? Then there is non-dilutive in terms of profit or revenue share. Now, for those ones who have ever heard of Islamic banking, Islamic banking, according to the Sharia law, you are not supposed to earn interest. So most of their capital options tend to take an avenue where there is no direct interest. So either you will have an agreement if it is an Islamic kind of financing model, where they will either give you will agree that for every money we generate, or for every revenue we generate, I'll give you 30, you'll take 20, okay? That is revenue share. Or for every profit I make, I will take 60%, you'll take 100%. That is sharing either revenue or profit. You'll find Islamic banking, really, they have the names, they're interesting names, but you'll find they have that core of revenue share or profit share or ownership share, okay? And then we have recoverable grants. So some grants we get, they give us, but they also are looking at sustainability. So they may give you a grant and say, if things go well, you will pay us back this money maybe over a period of time, but just that money, not interest. Or if they don't go well, at least we tried and did well and tried the concept, because many times grants are trying either unique concepts or things that are either risky or impactful, but are not so much geared on revenue, but to impact positively. So sometimes some things work, some team. So if you get a recoverable grant, it means you will pay back if things are well. If they don't go well, it's still fine. Then we have debt. This one you always have to pay back, Okay, some of us know it as loans. Okay, so when you take a debt or when you borrow from, when you borrowing means you expect to return. So we borrow debt, we borrow, and borrowing means it has to be returned, it has to be paid back. Okay, so there's debt which we borrow. Okay, now there's a hybrid. Okay, sometimes we find ourselves in negotiations where we say, you know what, give me part of this, give me part of this money, and part of this I will pay back. Part of it, I can give you some shares in my business. I don't know if you've encountered that, but that is also a possibility where you can say, you know what, I need 200 million. 100 million, I want it as a loan, I will pay it back. 100 million, I'm going to give you 20% shares. Okay, so there are instances, we call that mezzanine, because it's between. And we've had entrepreneurs pitch to investors requesting that kind of arrangement, because sometimes you want to have debt, okay, but the business is not in a position to accommodate a lot of debt. Okay, so sometimes they say, okay, I will only take up to the amount that the business can accommodate as debt. Then the other bit that I need money, but I cannot pay, the business cannot accommodate as debt, I will give shares. Okay, so that is also an option. Okay, then there is these arrangements, we call it convertible note. Okay, now for you to get an equity partner, or somebody who you are going to give shares, for example, of your business, or you're going to get him as a partner, it's equivalent to like a marriage, if I'm to put it that way, where if you are going to get a business partner, or in marriage, a life partner, usually there is a time you call dating or courtship, where you get to know each other. So when you are getting an equity partner, many a times, sometimes, you know, equity process for them to assess how are we going to have this relationship, who is going to make decision, are we going to, how are we going to manage our decisions, accountability, what, so many things have to be agreed upon because it's a business partnership. Now, sometimes you need this money urgently to execute some things. Maybe you are in a good opportunity and you need some quick money or quick decisions, but at the same time, you want him to have shares. So during that period of dating or courting, sometimes the investor or equity investor can trust and say, you know what, I'm going to invest in your business maybe $500,000, but let me release 100 as a convertible note. Okay, now the 100 means, yes, we have not agreed on the percentage and whatever, but at that point when he's going to either top up or now become fully as a partner, that money will come in. You will evaluate it a little bit different. You'll give him a discount of shares. If you are valued at 100 million, maybe you will give him the value at 90 million, so that he feels that there was a benefit. So we call this convertible note. Convertible note is simply money given to an entrepreneur during that days. It's about 6, sometimes 12 months, where an investor wants to come in, but there are a number of things that either need to be made in terms of decision, or sometimes he also wants to assess, are you a serious entrepreneur? Can you, are you in a position, is it something that, is it a relationship that will work? So sometimes it's experimental. If it doesn't work, you will have to pay back the money as a debt. But if it works, certainly they're buying stake in your business. Okay, so that is convertible note. So sometimes the entrepreneurs, when they're not sure with investors initially, they can propose, can we start with a convertible note the next 6 to 12 months or to the next 12 months? Then you can get stake if you're confident about the relationship. Okay, so usually it solves two problems. It allows a bit of courtship, and where you know each other, while at the same time it allows sometimes the business has not been evaluated, or audited, for example. So it allows some of those things to be streamlined so that when they are putting their money, they have confidence. So that is a convertible note. Then equity, you basically give out a percentage ownership of the business, okay? So here you basically say, you know what, I'll give you 20% for 500 million that you give me, okay? We've seen entrepreneurs pitch and investors say, you know what, I like this business, I want 50% of it. How much? So if your value is 1 billion, he'll give you 500 million, okay, for 50%. So it varies. So these are things that you need to be aware of, because when you start, when you now come into engaging pitching, okay? But for purposes of the pitch first, the financing partners that participate are either giving debt or equity, mostly debt, equity, or in between, okay? Proposing revenue share or profit share also works for many organizations as long as they have proof. Revenue share is easier. Profit share is usually a bit tricky because sometimes businesses hide the profit. But for revenue share, we've also seen it working for quite a number of investors. Yeah. Are there any questions on this? I hope you have some insights on this.
Yes.
Yes, please feel free to ask.
Yes, right. Let's go to revenue profit sharing.
Yes,
in this kind of arrangement falls under that scheme of revenue or profit sharing. An arrangement where you find an NGO comes to you and they say that, okay, we are going to do an investment of 100 million. And then we are going to facilitate, we're going to cater for 70 million, and then you do 30 million. Does that falls under revenue or profit share?
Now there it is how they contribute. So the contribution is not the issue. The issue is, do they expect? So you'll notice in all this, we are looking at the impact, okay, of the relationship. Are you going to pay back? Are you not going to pay back? And what is the level of ownership? Okay, so for example, if at the end of the day, the 70% you pay back, okay, then you pay back in terms of revenue or profit. So that is something that has to be agreed. So it's specified. So I think my question back to you is, what is the arrangement beyond the contribution? Okay, that will help me understand it.
Yes, right. So the contribution from you is like an investment into the project. So like you don't pay them, but you pay like in an activity of 100 million, they're going to give 70 million, and then you take care of 30 million. That's how it is. There's nothing like paying back.
Okay, so there's nothing like paying back. Then that is basically what we call a matching grant. It's a matching grant. They match. They say we shall give you 70, you put 30. So it's like a matching grant because you are not paying back.
Okay.
Yes. I think some of you have received a skills development facility. That is an example of a matching grant. Okay. Any other question? All right. Thank you. So I think one thing you need to know, now we are now in the journey of understanding money and where we can get money. Okay. So this decision of money, you need to know possibilities that exist. Number one, you need to know financial instruments. So you'll find, I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about grant, because grant is not something that is available. It comes once in a while, and it is dependent on a number of things, okay? But as a business person, anytime you need money, where are you likely to look for it? So we always find mostly we are either talking about debt or equity, a loan or giving out shares, okay? So those are the two core instruments, okay? And then which institutions give money? We have high net worth individuals. Some of us call them business angels or angel investors. These are people who trust you when Aine says, now you don't have audited books, what? They trust your business, the model, and say, you know what, we shall work with you. Okay, so it's almost like an angel trusting you, despite or without much knowledge of the status. Okay, so this, we call them business angels. They take risk, and most of them come obviously at an early stage where in many cases you don't have much of the systems in place, but you have a good model or concept. Banks, these are commercial financial institutions, and usually they come when you have certain systems or collateral. Venture capital firms, they usually come when sometimes you do not qualify for the bank. You have a very good concept or model, but you just don't fit in, or sometimes you fit, but the structure of the bank does not suit your business. So venture capital firms really do a good job. Equity funds, this is where you are now talking big money. You want to be $10 million, chances are you will go to equity funds because they're looking at bigger ticket sizes or bigger chunks of money to give. Then we have accelerator. I hope you've had hackathons, simple competitions. Okay, those are organizations. Sometimes they run these competitions where people win money. Then we have crowdfunding platforms where you put your business idea or concept, and you ask, I need to raise maybe 100 million, and people contribute. But ideally, you're expected to pay back, or or it comes in as a loan, something like that. So we have quite a number of crowdfunding platforms available. It's just that it's not predictable if they will contribute or not. And usually, sometimes the interest quite high, but they exist and actually support entrepreneurs. Yes, and then we have financial tools. I think I've talked about financial tools. The most common that you need to be aware of, income statement, which we have looked at, you have a worksheet. Balance sheet, which we have talked about, you have a worksheet. Cash flow statement, we have talked about it, you have a worksheet. Business plan is one of the things we covered last week. The one that we have not looked at is valuation analysis, or understanding the value of your business. Now, that one is sometimes a bit complicated for many entrepreneurs, but I'm going to simplify this. If you have done your financial statement and you have your income statement clear, there is a portion written EBITDA, earnings before interest, taxes. All you need to do, if you're making profit, multiply it by 5. Okay, that is a common reference of your potential value at a particular time. But if you are financial technology, it may be different. But typical businesses, you just take EBITDA and multiply by 5. That is usually tentatively the value of your business. Dixon, you have a question. Did I see a hand?
Yes, it's not a question.
It's a comment.
I just went. Yes, it's a comment, and I went off when someone was trying to ask, when you have a project and the investor is willing to give 70%, and they want you to put in something, and there is no return. They don't expect any money to be returned. Such projects, it's usually grants, but they ask for your contribution. What is your organization going to contribute? And in most cases, they give room for in-kind, where you could say, okay, for instance, the team that would be working on this would have to be facilitated with internet connection. The organization will provide for that. Or you could say working space, and you convert it into in terms of money, how much you would be spending, and then you give it as a percentage that they're asking for. In most cases, it's like that. And it's usually specific to projects, not a business as a whole. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dixon. I really appreciate your contribution. All right, so we are going to delve a bit deeper understanding debt or loan or equity. So debt, basically you borrow money from a lender, whoever that lender is, and the aim is you're going to pay back in the future or at a time T. And then equity, you are taking capital or money from an investor in exchange of stake, or you are giving a piece of the pie or a piece of your business, or you're sharing. Okay, so it comes in terms of it has an effect on the ownership. Now, for us to consider whether we want debt or equity or both, then we usually look at how does our business work, our business model. We did business modeling in our first session. So how does the business work? Is it that it has money fast, or money comes slowly, or it needs some time? Okay, so you may have a very good business model, but it needs time. It needs a lot of resources. It needs, for example, safe border. You cannot just easily start safe border. Okay, you need a lot of resources to have the system to onboard the border so that people, anytime they check on the platform, they can see border. So such businesses, they have to raise money. And most likely it cannot be debt because it needs more time. So chances are it's likely to be an equity partner. So the business model and the industry can influence the kind of financing. Then the financial need, you need that money for what? Okay, so if you need maybe that money to set up systems, develop, grow, you may find equity is better than debt because that one is patient money. Okay, but if you need money, I've got a deal of 1 billion, I need money to get things done, there debt will work for you. You understand? So depending on the financial need, what you are going to do with that money, okay, that will determine, okay, so the financial need can determine which kind of money is suitable. If you need money to build, it is better you probably go for equity because you probably, by the time you recoup and now start operating and whatever, if it takes long, okay, that's why you'll find projects of construction and whatever tend to take an equity component where, you know, we shall give you this money and we shall have this stake in the business, okay? Because it's easier and it's patient, and there is less risk on the entrepreneur. Then the business stage, okay? So for example, Aine mentioned, now you don't have this, you don't have that, such, and we mentioned something to do with, for example, angel investors. It may be a good opportunity for you to take equity so that you get that partner who will guide you. Let us set up this system so that it is transparent and we are accountable and we can trust that the business is being run well. So depending on the stage, okay, there are some stages in the business. For example, when you are starting, it's probably better to have equity because you may not guarantee that you will pay back the money. Sometimes you are taking risk. Okay, so there you probably need equity. So depending on the model, the financial need, and the stage, it determines which kind of financial instrument will be suitable for you. Okay, and what is the difference further? Okay, so technically, debt financing is cheaper than equity. That is something most of you need to be aware of. Okay, borrowing that money from the bank, which we say is expensive, is actually cheaper than equity. The only difference is with equity, we rarely feel the pain of paying back. Okay, because somebody comes in and the money is patient and whatever. It's either if I want to buy him back or he sells part the stake that we gave him to another investor. Usually they get a lot of money back. Okay, but just for your information, debt is fairly cheaper than equity. And if you are to calculate, the only thing is for the comfort and the patience of the business, probably equity is better and less risk. So what is the difference between debt and equity? One, on management. If I borrow, the person will not bother you. For them, they'll expect to pay you to pay back. So there is no influence on your management at all. Okay, you have borrowed, they expect you to pay back. Simple as that. Okay, so they have no influence. But when you get equity, The people who come into the business, obviously, when you are making strategic decisions, not operational, they are operational, basic operational, go here, where, that one is operation. Strategic decisions, we need to set up another factory, we need to buy more land, we need, those strategic decisions, they have to have a voice, okay? And that's why we call influence on management, okay? For debt, you have to repay. There is always a maturity date. For equity, there is no due date. You get your 500 million, you put in business, you all make money together. Okay, so there is no due date, but you can buy back. I just want you to know that you can get a partner and still buy him off. Some of us assume that when somebody buys stake, we may not be able, you can actually buy back. It's just that it will be a bit high, but still makes sense. Then yearly obligations. In debt, you have to pay interest. Beyond the money you borrowed, you have to pay interest. With equity, there is no liability. Okay, if you make money, then you give each other dividends. You get part of the profit, you share. Say, let's eat some of this money. So that becomes a dividend for you as the owners. Okay, then in debt, okay, interests are tax deductible. Sorry. I received, there was an interference. There was a short interference. So for tax benefits, interest is tax deductible, while dividends are not tax deductible. Now, there's something very interesting about these monies. If I borrow from the bank, and I always have loans in my book, the amount of tax that I pay is less. That is why you'll find many of these big companies, they're making profit, but they always have a loan. Now, some people say, hey, having a loan is bad, but for accounting purposes and for you to do more, it's good to have some, okay? But that is technical. I just want you to understand that loans are good if you want to reduce the pay of tax, because it's legal, and by the way, it's a legal way of expanding, but still paying less in terms of tax, okay? But you need to take something suitable for your business, not just any kind of money. Thank you. All right. Questions? Do you now understand available financial options? Maybe let me stop sharing and just listen to you people.
Hi, Roy. And hi, entrepreneurs. This is Harriet. I think for me, this is a very interesting space and conversation, because this clarity has not been brought forward to different entrepreneurs in a very interesting way, like you have. And so you find that there is a lot of NGOs, I could say, who come under the disguise of social enterprises. And they tell you they are going to give you, they have those options of money, like a debt, and you don't know what it means, a debt and equity. And in some cases, you find yourself actually going into these, applying for them, and you don't know these conditions, because most of them don't really go deeper to give you that clarification or analysis like you're sharing with us. It's like the bank. They will tell you amazing things, before you know it, you're getting the money, but then the time comes for paying back, it becomes a challenge, because there are certain things they don't tell you, and you find that you've gotten this loan, for example, but the loan comes with so many conditions, which you get to know afterwards. So I think for me, this is a very good space that you're sharing this. And the other question I would ask, is it now not good to think about these investors? Because if somebody has power over your business, what are the odds that this person can actually take over your business? Like the one you're saying, is it equity? where the person has bigger conversations around your space. Isn't this something that will scare entrepreneurs? Because if somebody has 100% or 90% power to decide on strategic decisions, that I think for an entrepreneur could make people fear to go into these spaces for these monies.
Thank you so much, Harriet. You've brought something very interesting and a very important conversation that entrepreneurs need to be aware of. Something about equity, which has a lot to do with ownership and stake. Many entrepreneurs fear, okay? But it's one of the revenue avenues I would highly encourage, especially if you're thinking big. Because many of us think that we only need money when we need the money or when we're in a financial trouble. It's actually on the contrary. You need to use money and utilize the money to make more money. I don't know if I'm making more sense. For example, if I have a sugar factory, very profitable in Atiak, okay? And I feel now Sudan seems to be, they seem to be buying a lot of sugar and there's also a lot of demand in Kampala. I can use that as an asset to get more money, to expand in Sudan, Ethiopia, whatever. Now, that is what you will find in a European ecosystem. People start with an idea, even sometimes they don't chip in. They go to an investor, you know what? I can give you 90%. Let's make this happen. And very soon they have products in Africa, all the countries. For us, you want to be there for the rest 10 years. Okay, you will have the comfort of running your business. But you see, the ownership syndrome limits your potential because it denies you the opportunity to innovate. You spend more time running the business and not innovating the business. Now, sometimes we feel that is what we should be doing, but actually the role of you as an entrepreneur is to be innovative and invest more in the things that make you happy. That's why you'll find somebody has 2%. Let me give you an example. Charles Mbire has a bit around 1% of MTN. Charles Mbire can probably buy all your businesses and you'll be willing to give him. Okay, now that is 1% of MTN. Now that is the spirit of what equity can do. Okay, so sometimes you can have a brilliant idea, but it needs money to actually be a global company. Do you know why we don't have our companies global? Do you know why I can be more of a trader distributing something and not manufacturing? It's because I limit myself to, you know, it has to be about me. But if you have a brilliant maybe solution, for example, I've seen in Cool, there's Covilis. From an entrepreneur mindset, the first thing is I will patent, get investors, probably $5 million, sell patents to South Africa, wherever. And with that investor, I probably will have 10% or 5%. But the trouble, I don't even need to go to South Africa because I have the capability to hire the best experts. I'll pay the best experts, and that's all I need. Look at Equity Bank. It was a cooperative, but initiated by the current MD is called James Mwangi. This guy may be having about 2 or 3% of that company, but now it is in over 5 countries, including Congo, I think Somalia, wherever. What is the value of equity as a bank now, vis-a-vis when he was running it as a small, whatever, in a province in Kenya? Okay, Safe Border is now a continental company. I think it has gone into 3 companies, three or 4 more countries. I think it's exited from Kenya, but because they borrowed, they had the capacity to expand. You see, the thing is, the concept is about having resources and using the resources to multiply. Vis-a-vis having the company and you have 100%. So there's one saying that Charles Mbire is known for saying. He says, small of big is better than big of small. The beauty about equity is because you get a partner, transparency comes into the business. You have to set up systems, whatever. You may even just remain a board chairman and you have the best CEO, the best, and you can pay because you have the money to pay and they will run the business. For you, you can even invest more, invest where. That is the difference between how we approach the business and how you'll find probably somebody in China approaching it. Okay, so he can have his clothes throughout Africa, producing cotton and even setting up factories in Congo, where. Because he got a concept, developed it, got investors. He probably has 0.01 of a $1 billion company. But you can have 100% of a 10,000 or less company. What is better? Is it better to be there? You work 24 hours, probably. You even don't have time to take a vacation, go and visit. If you are a Christian, you go to Israel, see where Moses went and whatever. That is an opportunity that you can have with such a. I hope you get a gist of what I'm trying to communicate, Harriet. The most important thing is the relationship and the value. Okay? And as long as you have the right partners, trust me, the business can go far and wide. So it's that actually limits most of the, you'll find most factories in Uganda, they don't have even a branch maybe in Kenya or wherever. And that's why you may have even Kenyan products coming here. Most of the, you'll find they started small, they expanded the factory, obviously, they got equity partners. The equity partners want to scale. They want the products to be in East Africa, in Africa. Okay, I'll give you an example of an entrepreneur who called me later. He had actually refused an equity investment. He had several products. He's actually one of the top entrepreneurs in the country. But he refused an investment worth $3 million. And these people are saying, you know what, let's do 50-50. We are going to set up a new factory. We are going to literally do everything. These products, we are going to export them even to Europe because we are going to produce them in European standards. He preferred to keep it because he felt it is his idea and his product. They will remain here. If somebody establishes, obviously they may. Okay, now these guys, he refused, decided to set up on their own hand. Is it worth it? I don't know. I leave that question to you. I hope that makes sense. Harriet?
Yes, it's very clear. And also it's something that probably other entrepreneurs were thinking through.
Yeah, so it's very important. Let me just tell you, if you have a good business model, your biggest aim is not to make the money from the business. Your biggest aim is to expand and have your product in the widest area possible. Why? If a Chinese comes and sees that product, chances are it will be a global product. But it's because you denied yourself the opportunity. So that's why sometimes you say, oh, by the way, I invented a pen. Now I'm seeing the Chinese are producing the same pen. This design, these people, they are copying everything. No, what we are trying to tell you is when you have something unique, do not deny others the opportunity to enjoy that unique product or service. Seek to expand. And for you to expand, you need resources. And for you to get resources, you have to either share or get the money. Okay? And that is the bottom line. I hope that makes sense on financial options. I'll ask us to take a 5-minute break and we start on business pitch development. I would ask that for those who have laptops, please open your pitch deck because I'm going to take us through the pitch decks. Some people call it an investment deck, some people call it a pitch deck. That is what we are going to go through so that over the weekend, you can take your time and work on your pitch decks. For those who have never had or worked on one, you have already a template within you. Just feel free to open. I'll be taking you through with examples. Thank you very much. 5-minute break. Okay, 6 minutes. So at 11:20, we are resuming. Okay, I hope you are able to digest some of these thoughts. But just know that the reason why they say Africa is behind is sometimes is really how we approach the business. We feel it should be ours. Your business is not yours. It's for you to release. And that is one of the first laws God gave you. He told you to be fruitful. Being fruitful is you have to be, you you release that concept or idea. Then multiply means you need to multiply this idea so that people can enjoy it, and as they enjoy it, you're actually earning more money. But we don't do that. We feel we need to keep our fruits and eat them by ourselves, and we remain poor. That is the challenge we have in Africa. Okay, thank you. Let's take 5 minutes and let's resume in at 11:20. Thank you very much.